Hello, bonjour. My name is Arissa. I'm the founder and CEO of Project Power Global, a nonprofit organization working to combat poverty through advocating for access to education. And I'm here today to talk about my experience working at CanWaCH through Plan International Canada's Girls Belong Here program. How did I hear about Girls Belong Here? That's a fantastic question. Well, 2 years ago, I was part of Plan's Speakers Bureau, which is, I like to call like activist training. You get to learn about how to carry out change-making initiatives in your community. I discovered the power of social media through the Speakers Bureau, as well as learned about how we can make a plan to create long-lasting change through the work that we're doing. And it was through that program that I got more involved with Plan Canada. In fact, my organization, PPG, or Project Power Global, PPG for short, did a collaboration event with Plan to raise money for their education work. And through there, I joined their newsletter, and one day I received an email saying that there was this new program, fairly new program. It's been around for a few years now. But essentially it was a program that allowed young women like myself to step into roles of power within our country. And as soon as I read that, I was like, this is for me. Like, I need to do this. I want to do this. I know this is my next step. And originally, there was always that in their voice, and I think there always is for many of us, telling us that we can't do it and we're not gonna get in. But somehow I managed to combat that little voice in my head, and I was just gonna go to apply, and I did, and now I'm here. What was I most excited about? Okay, well, I think I can take this question and kind of bring it back to when I first applied for the program. So I remember when I was working on my application, I had to film a few videos and answer some questions on them. And I remember my younger brother was helping me figure out what I wanted to share in these videos. And I remember he was like, okay, just ramble and I'll let you know what you're saying and let you know what makes sense the most. And he kept hearing me talk about how I was so desperate to find a place that I could not only be heard, but acknowledged. I think if I can take one thing out of this experience, it is the feeling of being honored. And I think that is one that a lot of youth are hungry for, especially those who are working in this field. And so to talk about what I was excited the most for, I guess it was being able to step into a world where I wasn't just there to say that youth are involved, rather I was there because I was able to equally contribute just as much as anyone else at the table. And I think that's something we need to be seeing more of in the world. I think too much of the time youth are just tokenized and used as ways to promote one's growth of an organization. And one thing I will never forget is how welcome CanWaCH made me feel in terms of, you know, always allowing me to speak and to present and take notes and learn and ask questions. And I know Julia, who was the CEO I got to work with, she always had this welcoming spirit that kind of just solidified my excitement and made me feel like she was in this to learn just as much from me as I was from her. I remember I was getting ready for the call. I had my blazer on, which I love my blazer, which is why I'm wearing it today. And I was like, okay, I need to act very professional. I am just one of the guys now. I need to show up with a big smile and be here and lively and energetic. And I remember getting on the call, and then Julia came on and she was so chill. I just remember how she got on the call, she just had this warm vibe, and all of my stress and anxiety kind of disappeared as soon as she got on the call, because I just felt like I didn't have to be someone I'm not, which is why I loved working at CanWaCH so much, because everyone was so open to everything and just being in a place that is non-judgmental. And so, you know, both Julia and I are, you know, CEOs of an organization, and of course, we can relate to one another in so many different ways. But I think the biggest way we relate is kind of in our mindset. And the mindset that I think both Julia and I share is that the work that we are doing is not easy. And we honor that and we respect that. And we're not afraid to say no to things that are not aligned with our vision and our goals. And I think both her and I kind of understand that the work we're doing is constantly going to be changing and shifting, because the world is constantly changing and shifting, and that's what's so beautiful about it. So I think we both have an amazing understanding that you can have a goal and a vision, but don't be afraid to change your course of action based on what needs to be done and what needs to be changed. I think as CEOs, it's really important to have this mindset, because so much of the time people are asking you about your goals and what's next and where you're going to use this funding for and where you're going to, you know, use this grant for. And a lot of the time it's just the same answers, because we feel like if we say something different, it's going to be like, oh, why are you doing that now? But I think we have to remind people that we have a goal. You know, at my organization, to support the global movement to end educational inequality by 2030, which is aligned with goals organized by the United Nations. PPG, just in itself, my plan of action has changed significantly. And so, yeah, both her and I have that mindset, and we're not afraid to change it up. Goodness, so many lessons to take away from my experience at CanWaCH. I do remember one conversation I had that I thought I'd share today that was quite impactful, because I know I can talk about, oh, you know, made me believe in myself more, made me open to more opportunities, and I connected with so many people, and I heard about this funding from the government and that funding, and I learned that youth can do this in Canada and whatever. But something I wanted to share is actually a conversation I had with, I believe it was the Equal Futures Network, where we discussed the difference between equality and equity. And I never even thought about that, because I thought those words were interchangeable. And here, you know, this is just one of the examples of how much I've learned and I've grown as a leader through this experience. But essentially, we discussed how equality is what it sounds like. It's making sure that everyone and everything is equal. But equity is what we should be striving for, because equity is equality, yes, but it's also has the aspect of meeting people where they're at. When you are equitable, you know that everyone deserves the same thing, but you are not afraid to work harder for certain people to achieve that equality. So for example, let's say you have a student who is deaf, and then you have a student who is just is able to hear properly. And you want to teach these students how to do well in the SSATs. You might have to do a little bit more to make sure that student A, the deaf student, is able to succeed on the SSATs. But you're not afraid to put in that extra effort because you believe in equality. I think when we're talking about change-making work, and especially with global healthcare, which is what CanWaCH focuses on, we have these big umbrella goals that we want to carry out. But we gotta remember that it's the hard work we put in that's gonna help us achieve those goals. And it all starts with equity, not equality. Well, equality, but equity. And then what surprised me the most about CanWaCH, this is not philosophical or deep in any way, shape, or form, but something that did surprise me at first when I first got placed with CanWaCH was that it is a completely online organization. It runs completely digitally. And at first I was like, wow, finally I get to meet another CEO running a completely digital organization. And that was so exciting. But I, always had this inside voice in my head telling me that, oh, only the biggest and best organizations get to have real buildings where their staff works. And maybe that is true in some form, but having four walls and a roof does not really mean anything, because the work that you do and the connections that you're making and the time and the effort and the hands-on impact that you're creating is far greater than any apartment building that you might need to run an organization. So for me at first, but I definitely forgot weeks. I did not even feel like I was experiencing anything compared to some of the other Girls Belong Here participants who were paired with people who did have office buildings. My piece of advice that I've actually been kind of obsessed with telling people lately, sorry to my friends and family who are probably sick and tired of hearing this advice, is to ask for help. Okay, so I could talk hours and hours about asking for help and what that means in different contexts and different sectors and different parts of our lives. But in terms of organizationally, what I mean by that is don't be afraid to reach out and connect with people who are able to support you in your mission. I had the opportunity to learn about the great work of the Equal Futures Network at CanWaCH and how they are connecting not only non-governmental organizations, but just other activists and young people and people from diverse backgrounds who are working towards equality of all people and all kinds in the world. And I was exposed to how rich these conversations and connections became, and I was really taught that when we are open to saying, I don't know how to do this, like, can you help me? Can you teach me? Can you show me? The impact we can create is incredible. So do not be afraid to ask for help. Do not be afraid to ask for help personally. I know I definitely have gone through so much training on how to be a better person and a better leader. And through Julia, I also learned some of her incredible little golden lessons that she was able to share with me on how to run CanWaCH, any organization. So don't be afraid to ask for help and to partner and to collaborate. Okay, this question is literally the story of my life. I constantly think about how I can use my experience to aid organizations in meaningfully engaging with youth, CanWaCH being one of them. And one of the golden nuggets of advice, pieces of advice that I've been able to share is that if you don't want us there, please don't invite us there. Like, if you are just looking to invite youth to your space just for the sake of saying that we're present and, you know, putting us up on your shelf and being like, oh, you know, we're awesome because youth are here. Like, we don't have time for that. We are too busy trying to figure out how to end climate change, how to figure out and bring more peace to the world. So please don't waste our time just inviting us if you don't want to actually listen to us. That's my first piece of advice. My second piece of advice is that just because we're younger does not mean we don't have as much to contribute to the table. I think, you know, even personally, I've had conversations with my family and my friends and, you know, those who are older than me, and they've sometimes said, like, you're not going to understand because we're older than you. And in certain situations, that's definitely the case, and not trying to say that older people are not more wise. They certainly are. But I think that wiseness, I don't even know if that's a word, works both ways. I am part of Generation Z, or Gen Z, and we are the world's fastest moving generations. We have grown up in the age of technology. We have lived through a pandemic, a global pandemic, which we still continue to live through. We've been, you know, the first generation to really wake up to climate change and speak out about how we need to act now on this issue. And one thing I can tell you is that, yes, maybe we won't understand what it was like back then, but we understand what it's like now, and we know what we are going to need in the future. So even though we have not lived 50 years and we have not been exposed to the past, please don't tell me that we don't know what we're gonna need to do in order to build a better world, because we are living in the now. We've been growing up in the now. We know what it's like in this world now, and we are already thinking about the plans for the future and how we can make it brighter. So when you invite us with that notion that we are here to contribute just as much as anyone else. Lastly, something I wanted to give as constructive feedback and actual feedback that you can take action on is I've worked with various organizations to establish a strong youth body or youth council, and that's something I love doing and has been really effective in a lot I've worked with. So my advice, establish a group of youth who you know you can trust to give you the perspective of what we as young people are thinking today. And make sure that you don't invite them just for the short term, but long term, so that you can also provide those youth with the opportunity to grow and share in a way that is holistic and not just a snapshot of time. I think that's all the questions. Oh my goodness, I've loved this interview so much. Thank you to everybody at CanWaCH for everything. I want to actually take this opportunity to sincerely thank Julia Anderson, the CEO I've got to work with over the past few weeks. You have changed my whole view on life in so many different ways and have taught me incredible lessons that I'm going to take forward with me throughout my next few years of becoming more of myself and more of Arissa. So thank you, Julia. Thank you also to the incredible team at CanWaCH. It was an absolute gift to be able to meet you all and to share my experience with all of you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being present and asking me questions and really making me feel like this was home. So I am so grateful, and to everyone who is watching this interview, thank you for your time. If you would like to connect with me further, you can find me on Instagram at Arissa_Roy. You can also email me at Arissa, ARISSAROY06 And if you want to check out Project Power Global, my nonprofit, it's projectpowerglobal.org. Take care, everyone, and have a fantastic day.